Hello and welcome to the Fawley site on behalf of ExxonMobil and our contractor companies. You'll remember from your site induction that there are many key rules and pieces of information that you need to know to work safely on the site at Fawley. For example, the Fawley life-saving rules, the wearing of the correct PPE for each area of the site, general evacuation and emergency procedures, and the LPS system of behavioural safety that all site personnel use to keep them safe. The site at Fawley comprises a refinery and chemical complex which together produce a vast range of lubricants, fuels and also specialty chemical products like rubber and solvents. In order to produce these range of diverse products, the site uses many different feedstocks and processes. This means that there are many different process areas, or units, that are manufacturing products at the site. Each process unit has its own hazards, and although they are safely operated and the Fawley site has very few incidents, it's important that you know the hazards on each unit that you work on, in order that you carry out your work safely and in the unlikely event of an emergency. For example, likely hazards can include toxic or flammable fluids, high pressure systems, hot or very cold surfaces, corrosive acids or alkalis, working in an area that involves upgrading of PPE, such as double hearing protection or even wearing a life jacket when working over water. You can see that to have one induction to cover all the areas would be too long and detailed to understand. We've therefore developed specific shorter induction films for each of the units that you would be expected to work on. These inductions are very important as they contain information specific to the area that you'll be working in, including the hazards and also emergency procedures and evacuation routes that you'll require in the event of an emergency. As you did with the site induction, please give this short film your best attention, and please ask either your supervisor or ExxonMobil contact if you require any more assistance or clarification. Everybody working on units must have both a site induction and a block-specific induction. We need to ensure that everybody working at Fawley has the right information to ensure that nobody gets hurt. Welcome to the Powerformers. The reforming complex covers 3 blocks. Powerformer 1, Block 36A, Powerformer 2, Lezer, Light Ends Stirling Refinery, Block 32, ISOM, the isomerization plant, Block 35A. CCR3 is the main control room and is situated in the centre of the complex at the junction of CAV and 10th Street. So what do we do? The Powerformers and ISOM unit are used to produce high-octane reformate, petrol. The powerforming circuit operates at approximately 25 bars, 500 degrees plus, and contains treat gas, which is 70% hydrogen. Operating at or above its auto-ignition temperature means it will catch on fire as soon as it contacts air. That means if it gets outside the pipework. We produce LPG, propane and butane. Also xylenes and benzene are extracted and sent to tankage for export. Refinery fuel gas is produced and sent to be scrubbed before being burnt in the furnaces. We also supply hydrogen-rich treat gas to the refinery for use in the hydrofiners, Scanfiner and Resid. Evacuation points. The main evacuation point is the car park outside CCR3. Powerformer 1 and 2 have muster points on D Avenue on 8th Street and D Avenue on 11th Street corners. The ISOM has a muster point on B Avenue on 10th Street at Primrose Cottage. A signing-in book is kept in the permit office in CCR3 and ensure you fill in all the sections in the book. You must ensure that you're signed in individually or as a group before you proceed onto the block and sign out when you leave. When proceeding onto the block, you must inform one of the following before you can go out onto the units. Process Coordinator, Regal 7, 6746. Process First Line Supervisor, Regal 2, 6722. Powerformer 1 Operator, Regal 3. Powerformer 2 Operator, Regal 5. Wide Cut Hydrofiner Laser Operator, Regal 4. ISOM Operator, Regal 6. Powerformer 1 ISOM Panel, 4383. Powerformer 2 Wide Cut Hydrofiner Laser Panel, 4237. Comfort breaks can be taken at the comfort station for the reforming complex, which is at Zone 3 offices. You do not need to sign out when going for a comfort break, but if you hear a gas alarm coming from the block you are working on, remain at the comfort station until process sign you out. gas alarms. Powerformer 1 gas alarm is a two-tone warble. Powerformer 2 gas alarm is also a two-tone warble. The ISOM gas alarm is a single tone. These are tested on Wednesdays at 1600 hours. The evacuation procedure. In the event of an evacuation, make the area safe before you leave. Switch off engines, like generators, compressors, vehicles. Isolate gas bottles, such as welding sets. Do not leave traps for process or emergency services, such as tripping hazards. Check the wind direction and go across the wind to the nearest evacuation point and wait to be signed out. Block 40B and Block 45A halogens. Block 40B and Block 45A stores chlorine and bromine, which are both halogens. Chlorine is a yellowish-green gas and bromine is a red liquid at ambient temperature. They're likely to be invisible at low concentrations, but have a swimming pool or bleach smell at around 1 parts per million levels. Both can cause severe irritation to eyes, skin and respiratory tract at less than 2 parts per million and can be fatal at higher concentrations. If the chemicals halogen is sounded, which is tested at 1545 on a Monday, you must use the MSA Miniscape respirator and walk across wind to an evacuation point. Emergency telephones. These phones are dotted around the unit. Make sure you know the location of your nearest phone before you start work. Instructions are displayed above the booths. These are dial 1, this is the direct line to CCR3 control room. And if for any reason they do not answer, dial 9, this is the direct line to the CCC. Give all the relevant information you can think of, including the block and location, say block 32 or C201, the nature of the incident, a leak or a fire, any injured persons, and the wind direction. PPE. The minimum personal protective equipment in operating areas are flame retardant anti-static overalls or coveralls, safety boots, a belt for extra safety and monitoring equipment if required, safety spectacles, a safety helmet, extra eye protection goggles if required, and gloves. Goggles must be carried at all times when on the site as an upgrade to glasses if conditions dictate, for example high winds or dusty conditions. In most areas you'll also require an H2S monitor and escape respirator. You must wear a minimum of single hearing protection in all plant operating areas and other areas where indicated by signs where noise exceeds 85 decibels, and that is earplugs or earmuffs. Double hearing protection is required in several areas around the main compressors C201 and C1-C2. Watch out for the signs. H2S. Equipment that contains H2S is bordered by a 4-inch blue line. Process lines have a blue band painted on them every 6 meters, and the vents and drains are painted blue. The flare lines leaving the GZ are painted solid blue, as these could contain in excess of 20,000 parts per million. H2S levels. 5 parts per million is a limit for an 8-hour working day. 10 parts per million when your personal monitor will alarm. Between 100 and 150 parts per million you lose your sense of smell, and at 700 parts per million you become unconscious, and death will follow. Caustic and acid. We have 6 bromine caustic and 96% sulfuric acid on the reforming complex. These have 4-inch red lines painted around them and a bund wall. You must wear goggles and PVC gauntlets when you enter a red line area. Any work to be carried out will be assessed, and PPE upgraded accordingly to include wellies, green suits, visors, PVC gloves, etc. Safety showers with eye baths are located adjacent to red line areas. When working in these areas, make sure you know where your nearest safety shower is and how it works before you start work. The ISOM and WHB safety showers are the only ones fitted with a remote alarm. Vehicle entry. As a standard, all vehicles must be diesel powered and fitted with a Cholwin valve to enter a red road. If they're required to run whilst parked on the block, they must also have spark arresters. All vehicles must have a vehicle pass displayed in the windscreen before they enter the reforming complex. Verbal permission for dropping off or picking up can be granted by the PC or PFLS. Work. Please take time to complete your LPSA, last-minute risk assessment, prior to starting any task, and remind yourself of the gas alarms, evacuation points, and wind directions, etc. Think, what is the worst that can happen? Ensure you understand the job you're doing fully, your job method, and that the tools you're using are of the correct type and are in good condition. Be aware of your surroundings and any local hazards that could affect you. Be sure to keep your LPSA last-minute risk assessment live as you progress through your work. Concentrate on any changes likely to affect you. Repeat a last-minute risk assessment after taking a break to ensure you still understand what you're doing and how you're doing it. And if you don't like the look of something, see process. Remember, all the details for the units are contained inside your white induction book. The information provided is critical to you and your colleagues' safety. Have the right information at the right time, rather than having no information at the wrong time. Also, when you're working on our units, please at all times always use good housekeeping philosophy, use waste bins and skips provided. Never deviate from your permit conditions without getting the permit reauthorized. Don't forget, a permit to work is required for any activity and should be read and understood by all involved, as it will contain additional safety information relevant to that task at that time. Also remember, our units are working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Please do not block access or egress to any equipment or roadway. We would also ask that if you see an unsafe act or process situation, please report it immediately so that it can be investigated at the earliest opportunity. Pet phones are located across the blocks. Dial 9 in an emergency. Even if it's a false alarm or condition, we'd rather investigate the potential situation than not know. Your observation could be critical. Please remember, our goal is always nobody gets hurt. We mean it, and with your safe work on our unit, together we can achieve this. Finally, if there's anything in this presentation that you aren't clear of, please talk to your supervisor or a member of the process team. Thank you for listening and have a safe day.